Hey folks, Miller USAF here. Still a little bit jet lagged, but happy to be back here in the land of the free, home of the brave. It's been a long deployment in the Middle East, so I'm blessed to be back with family and friends. To be doing these videos once again from my house instead of from my quarters over in the Middle East. Um, I tell you what, we got our problems in the U.S., but when you go out and see other areas of the world, you realize that we actually have it pretty made in the U.S. We have things going pretty well for us. It's not perfect. We got some things we need to work through, but I tell you what, there's a lot of people dealing with a lot of worse things over in other areas of the world. So enough about that. Let's talk about 9mm versus 45. It's a subject that everybody talks about. I tell you what, if you want to get yourself into a spirited debate on either YouTube or a gun forum or in a gun store, just bring up 9mm versus 45. You'll probably end up talking for hours, and usually somebody gets pissed off. It's just the way it is. It's just like the AK versus AR debate. This is my opinion on it. 9mm versus 45. Um, Bottom line is, if you can afford it, get both. Both rounds are proven as threat stoppers. They've both been around for a long time. The 45's been around for a little bit over a century. 9mm just almost the same amount of time. 9mm wasn't as well known as the U.S. until later on because it got its roots in Europe, and it was more popular in Europe before it caught on in the U.S. But I think people need to stop focusing so much on the hardware and focus more on the software. Get your shot placement down, and you'll realize it doesn't matter if you're carrying a 45 or a 9mm. You get your shot placement right, you're going to stop the threat. This is something that's taught in every single firearms training course, military training, law enforcement training, is shot placement. If you don't got good shot placement, the size of the round that you're using isn't going to matter. Um, you know, I think trying to compare the two rounds is also something that, in essence, is a time waster. Yeah, it's fun to debate, so I guess if you just want to do it for the sake of debate, sure. But in all seriousness, it's a waste of time to compare the two rounds to each other because they were made in two different time periods. And, it's like comparing apples to oranges. It doesn't make sense. There's two different sets of ballistics behind them. The design behind each round was different. The 45 is bigger and slower. 9mm is smaller and faster. There's different concepts behind each round. So I think, comparing the two just doesn't make sense. It's just like trying to compare a high point to a Glock. It's just a waste of time because why would you compare something that is just not in the same league as something else? It's just totally different, totally different things. So I think in the end, when we're talking 9mm 45, if you're on the fence and going, well, should I get a 9mm, should I get a 45? Go handle a 9mm and a 45. Shoot them if you can before you buy. See which one handles better for you and which one is more comfortable for you, and get that particular caliber that you feel you are best with. If it's a 9mm, more power to you. If it's a 45, awesome, more power to you. Don't focus so much on which one is the so-called correct caliber to have. They've both proven themselves, and there's no doubt about that. The 9mm has certainly killed a lot of bad guys, and the 45 has certainly killed a lot of bad guys. So all in all, focus more on your software. Get your training right. Get your shot placement right. Learn to put those rounds in the vital areas and stop the threat. And don't fall into the trap of blaming the hardware for deficiencies in the software. So with that said, I'll go ahead and end the video. Feel free to comment. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of comments on there. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of comments from people saying, hey, Miller, you just completely missed the point. 45 is better, or hey, 9mm is better, yada, yada. Again, this is just my opinion based on my observations and such. Worry about that software and get your software right, and you'll realize that the caliber doesn't play as much of a factor when you got your training right. So with that said, feel free to leave the comments, leave video responses if you'd like. I'll approve them, and let the debate rage, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of interesting comments. So hey, thanks for watching, and keep the powder dry.